Hello everyone, and welcome to a little Let's Try video showing off a game that I played quite a lot on my GameBoy Advance as a child. And it is the video game adaptation of the Disney animated film Home on the Range, as you can see. It is for the Game Boy Advance, as I said. I don't think there are any other Home on the Range games than this one. I'm pretty sure this is the only one that came out, certainly the only one that I know about. I don't think that there is like a console version of the game or a console version of the movie game. Yeah. And yeah, this is, at least as far as I know, the only level like this, but I'm gonna be totally honest, I never really got very far in this game when I was a kid. I said that I played it a lot on my GBA back in Nam, but that does not mean that I did very well at it. I had a rotation of like 3 or 4 Game Boy games when I was a young child, and whenever we were in the car, I would just kind of play them, and I would just switch them out whenever I was fucking up one of them too much. One of them was Super Mario Land, which is a good game, but a pretty janky one. And so I would die a lot, and I mean, I'm still not super great at that game. And then there was the Robots Game Boy Advance game, which I also didn't get super far in. I would be willing to do a video of that as well sometime. I've also played the Robots console game, which I didn't get far in because I just rented it from Blockbuster for the PS2. I don't remember thinking that it was that good, but I also didn't get far into it at all. And yeah, this game is confusing. Like I said, I haven't gotten very far in it, but it's weird that it takes this long. If it is just mostly a normal platformer, it takes until like a minute from now to actually get into that, and then there's just like a long section of it, and then I don't know what is after it. I never got past this Jeb part. And for those of you who haven't seen Home on the Range, both Buck, who is the horse we were just playing as, and Jeb are extremely small characters in the movie. Jeb especially. Buck, at least, I could call him a supporting cast member, but he really doesn't affect the plot very much from what I remember, and he's just not a very memorable character in a whole bunch of screen time. It's mostly about the 3 female cows, who are named Maggie and some other ones. I don't remember. I believe Maggie is the one who's played by good old Roseanne Barr, Disney princess. And I'll talk a little bit more about the movie in a minute. But yeah, I never got past this Jeb part. I don't remember what part, like at which point it becomes unfamiliar to me, but I never finished this level as a kid. I would just alternate between, like I said, this, and I hate how the ground slam does have a little bit of like a forward movement to it, so it's kind of hard sometimes to, actually aim and stomp down where you want to be going. And also, these scorpions are a pain in the ass. The hitboxes on them and like what counts as a hit with your little horn swipe move is very strange and inconsistent to me. Or maybe I just suck at the game. That's certainly a possibility. As you're going to see later, there are a few edits because, yes, I did manage to die in this extremely easy children's game. But I think I'm going to defend myself, not to say I did make some just stupid mistakes because I didn't remember what you had to do because it's been a while since I played this. And sometimes it's not always readily obvious what you can and can't do, at least not to me. But yeah, what was I'm trying to think of the other Game Boy game that I played a lot of. There was a wonderful time. I was friends with this kid in like 7th grade, and he was kind of a butthole sometimes, but He was cool, and he one time lent me his collection of Game Boy and DS games right after I had bought my DS. This was... I was about to say this was back when the DS was, like, more of a big deal, but it really wasn't, because it was toward the end of the DS's life cycle, and it was only a couple years before the 3DS came out, I guess. If I was, let's see, in 7th grade, I would have been like 12 to 13, so yeah, it would have been coming up on 2011, like a couple years before that. Anywho, yeah, you have to stop next to the crate to get it going. I tried to stomp near it, and I ended up just going into the water, hence the edit. So yeah, he gave me like several dozen, and that was the first time I started playing through a Pokemon game. I played Pokemon Diamond. That was the first one I played through. And I didn't get to the end of it or anything. I'm just saying that's the first one that I like made any progress in and played at all. Like Brain Age and a bunch of the other like kind of gimmicky DS games that were out at the time, and then a bunch of Game Boy games. So at that point I was really living, but that was a little bit later. I had this game, I guess, since around it came out. I don't even remember. Most of the video games from my childhood, I can usually remember where I encountered them, you know, how I first played them or where I first got them, because most of the time it's Blockbuster. That's just how I, you know, became privy to most video games, is because it was a building I went to every week of my life for several years that had a bunch of movies and video games in it that had just come out. So I kind of, this is why I think that's one of the main reasons why I wish Blockbusters were back. I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to be Blockbuster specifically is because of my own personal good memories about going to Blockbuster. Remaining completely aware that Blockbuster as a company was just as shitty as everything else. But just in general, a good, like, video game rental place, preferably a brick-and-mortar store, although, you know, the viability of those is a thing in the near future with what is going on right now is kind of an open question. But just because I prefer the, like, browsing around, and I prefer having to get a physical copy of it and bring it home, honestly. Like, streaming, I think, is good, you know, for the, you know, relative ease of accessibility to a number of titles, but, like, I don't know, I kind of prefer back when you would go to Blockbuster and, like, whatever you bought, or whatever you rented, like, you would watch it, you would watch all of the movie, or you would, you know, play as much of the video game as was fun to do, at least. And I don't know. I mean, that's more for movies, though, my problems with streaming versus physical stuff. But on the video game end, there's just no real thing like that where you can rent a video game and try it out for a little while. And video games are expensive as shit, as always. So if you want to play a game, you either have to waste a bunch of money and then never play it, or get it illegally, and then you're doing that. And, like, what if I don't want to do that? What if I'm okay with spending some money? And yeah, that fucked up, but I wanted to show the death animation because it's a very strange face that Jeb makes here. And yeah, like, Buck is a supporting cast member at best, but Jeb is in this movie for literally about a minute and a half and does not have very many lines, but I suspect there's something about this game and the sort of, like, haphazard construction of it in terms of what kind of levels there are that make me think that it was thrown together for the movie. Like, there wasn't a whole lot of, like, maybe it was being made before the movie, because the movie is not very good either. Like, before they developed, like, the actual plot of the movie, because, like, from what I can tell, what happens in the game doesn't really have much to do with it. Like, the outlaws from the movie are the outlaws being referred to in the game, but, like, I don't know, just the way that it works, like, the movie is about Maggie the cow coming to the, you know, good Christian Minecraft server and, like, farting too much. And that's the main thing. Like, and the cattle rustler is just kind of a backdrop to her and the other cows being pissed off at each other. But this one, it's like Buck and all the other fucking random-ass animals of the farm that are in the movie for 2 seconds. They all, like, are working together. I don't know. It doesn't have anything to do with it, with the movie, with anything that happens in the movie, and there are characters in it that are in the movie. They seem just like stock characters that they, you know, every Disney movie, they come up with 45 new characters, and then, you know, they make a whole thing out of them because they all gotta be toys and whatnot, and they're all voiced by celebrities, but they're only on screen for 2 seconds. That's not really the case with Jed, because I don't remember who he's even voiced by, and also, I don't think there was a huge, like, merch push for Home on the Range, and obviously there wasn't much of a video game or, like, you know, secondary media angle either, and it's probably because the movie sucks, and they probably were aware that it wasn't going to make very much money. It was kind of the nail in the coffin, for those who don't know. This movie came out in 2004. I actually remember seeing it in theaters with my mother, and it's just a very, like, weak and unfunny and not even particularly nice-looking Disney movie. Very, like, thin plot and all that sort of deal. Not much to write home about, and I think this is a very silly death here. I just wanted this, but apparently not. Anyway, yeah, this movie came out in 2004, and it was pretty much the nail in the coffin for 2D theatrical animated Disney movies. The year after this is when they did Chicken Little, their first CG one, and then they did Meet the Robinsons, they did Bolt, and then Princess and the Frog was kind of, you know, a return to form, although that one was in production, you know, for a while, and I think the sort of muted success of Chicken Little and Bolt and Meet the Robinsons is what, well, maybe not so much Bolt, because that was just the year before, but those other movies having the kind of muted success that they did probably gave the idea to make it a 2D animated movie a little bit more credence, and but that didn't really reclaim magic either, and now Disney is pretty much exclusively CG animated movies, for better or for worse. I happen to prefer 2D animated movies generally. I don't have a vendetta against CG animation. It can be used for wonderful things. But I just think that the comparative limitations of 2D is what gave Disney its more innovative streak. But what do I know? I'm just some fucker playing a Game Boy Advance game. Anyway, I'd love to rant more about this, but this is all I had for this little Let's Try, so, I mean, I guess let me know if you'd like to see more of this game. I kind of like keeping it just to one video. There's not a whole lot to do in it, or I just don't know how interesting of a run it would be, but I hope it was interesting to watch, and I'll see you guys next time for whatever else I do.